Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to. I'm an alcoholic named Dave. And thank you, Laura, for asking me to lead the meeting. Just to start out, I would never come to this meeting. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't because I didn't like you or... I moved to LA in December of '98. And I've had a blessed life. I've just had a blessed life. I ended up sponsoring one of my rock and roll heroes in 2000. I took him to all kinds of meetings and read the big book with him. And music's just a hobby with me, but the band he played in was a passion. I was very passionate about their music. It's the only kind of music I really know how to play. And one night this other guy in a rock band, he came to this meeting and he says, "Man, I went to that Rodeo meeting and I was just so underdressed." And I thought, you know what? If the guy from the Goo Goo Dolls is coming to this meeting and feeling underdressed, I'm never going. And that was just my thinking. I have an inferiority complex, and I'm an egomaniac, or however that's supposed to be said. So Jerry Shamalis asked me to record this meeting 4 years ago, and now I have a job when I come here, and I don't worry about how I'm dressed. I initially tried to get sober. I'm an alcoholic of the drunk kind. I'm a real alcoholic. I tried to get sober in 1986. Actually, the date was April 28th, and I know this because I have a coffee cup with that date stenciled on it. I went to a rehab in Lodi, California, New Beginnings, because I had an emotional crisis, and that's always been my reason to get sober. I'll back up. My first drink. A lot of things happened when I was 15 and a half, like 1968, somewhere in there. Lost my virginity, started driving a car, smoked my first joint, and got drunk for the first time. And I remember the getting drunk part. Well, I remember the getting stoned part too. But I was at a family birthday party. It was in the backyard of my parents' house, and everybody was laughing at me, and I had to keep going to the bathroom. I had to keep peeing. And I just remember my mom thought it was so funny, and I got drunk, and I loved it. I don't remember if I got hungover. I don't remember if I got sick, but I did all those things when I was 15, and it just progressed through the years. Fast forward, because I've only got 10 minutes here. Through my life, I had people yell at me twice that I remember. A friend of mine and I used to drive from Orange County to Torrance every night, or Lomita. And on the way back, we would always stop and buy a six-pack of beer. Keith was 21, I was 20. So, that was our pattern. And I remember one night, he wasn't pulling over. And I finally asked him, I go, "Keith, are we going to get some beer?" And he yelled at me. He said, "Is that all you think about?" And I'm thinking, well, yeah. It hurt my feelings. And, eventually he pulled over. We got the six-pack, and I was fine. Another time, I was partying at a friend, actually my college roommate's house, and his roommate yelled at me, "Is that all you do?" And I'm thinking, well, yeah. Hurt my feelings. I mean, my feelings really got hurt when you'd yell at me like that, because, yeah, I lived for that. I remember my parents busted me, I don't know, in their living room, and they found a half unrolled paper. We drank a bunch of Heinekens. We were passed out on the floor from the beers. But the pot was a big deal, and I told him I was going to do that till the day I died. You know, I just loved getting high, and I loved drinking. Alcohol kicked my ass. I went to jail, I don't know how many times, but I think it was like 7 or 8. You know, I kind of tallied it up one time. It was started back in the 70s for DUIs. The fine was $250 the night in jail, and they reduced it to a wet reckless if you stayed clean for like 3 years, as long as that would go. And my last DUI was in 91, like February of 91. It was 4 months after another one that I'd gotten, so I'd gotten 2. And I always relate it to just time and money. They just want your time and money. And since Mothers Against Drunk Drivers came out, it got very expensive to get a DUI. And I remember when I got sober in '86, I remember driving, I worked in Sacramento, lived in Stockton. I remember driving down the freeway thinking, you know what, I won't get any more DUIs. I mean, that was my thinking. As long as I'm not drinking, I won't get any more DUIs. But you know, I met this lady that had given me an emotional crisis to get sober, and I was engaged to be married to her at the time, and I used to have these anxiety attacks. She'd kick me out of her house. She'd be throwing things at me, coffee cups, ashtrays, anything she could get her hand on, and would just throw it at me, and I'd be headed for the front door, and I'd get in my car, and I'd drive away. And I didn't know it was an anxiety attack at the time. I'd just be hyperventilating to the point of almost vomiting, and I'd be really upset. And I was working at a Sacramento TV station at the time, and I was working the graveyard shift, and I ran a lot of these PSAs and promos and commercials for the Schick Center and Alcoholics Anonymous, and 2 questions stuck in my mind that they asked you. One was, did you have problems with relationships? And the other one was, do you have problems driving? And I remember one of those times leaving her house, having an anxiety attack. I kind of settled down in my car, and I thought, you know what, I have problems driving, and I have problems with relationships. So that was like on a Saturday night. Sunday, I got on the phone. I started calling rehabs because I needed a quick fix. I needed to get well and to take care of this. I didn't know how long it would take or how to do it. But I went into this rehab and did the 28-day thing. And, you know, the insanity of my life is that I eventually married this lady. You know, and we had broken up. We'd broken up, and in this rehab, we're going to AA meetings. That was the blessing. They took us to AA meetings, and I remember turning my life over to God, and anything that happens is God's will, and blah 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 blah. You know, and I'm going to a meeting, and I had maybe 60 days, and she pulls up next to me in a car, and sees me and waves. So my thinking is, this is God's will. Yeah. You know what? If she calls me, that's God's will. And, you know, lo and behold, she called, and bam, we're back on again. I married her. It was a nightmare. She told me what I wanted to hear because I was going to meetings. She says, David, you're not really an alcoholic. You're not really an addict. You just drank a little bit too much once in a while. So I stopped going to meetings. I stopped coming to you and made her my higher power. And it was just sheer insanity. I had no recovery process. I had a sponsor I never used, and in a very short period of time, I was collecting drunken publics and DUIs again. I know now my God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, and got me a job at a Sacramento TV station, so I moved 5 hours down the road, and literally started all over again, collecting DUIs. Met another lady at work. She was coming in to cut voiceovers, and fell in love again and started dating her. But she was smart, and we're great friends today. She knows I'm sober, and we talk at least once a year. And she told me, well, she's married. I mean, you know, lives up in Napomo. But Mary told me, she says, David, she says, we can't have an intimate relationship because of what you're doing. And she didn't say what I was doing specifically, but I knew exactly what she was talking about. And I'm driving from Pismo to Santa Maria in my little Volkswagen van with my bag and my bong next to me in the car, because I hadn't had a drink in a couple years. Thank you to the state of California putting me on antabuse. But I was still getting high. And I looked over at my bong and my bag, and I said, nah, you know, because I knew I had to start going to meetings, and that was my insanity. I'd be shit-faced drunk driving down the road, and a cop would come up behind me or come towards me or go around me, and I'd say, man, I got to start going to meetings. And I'd be wasted. I'd just be shit-faced drunk. And figuratively, I got a slap in the face about 4 months later. She had made a date with somebody else when I thought she should have made a date with me. And I was driving from Pismo to Los Osos. There was a club out there, the Sweet Spring Saloon. And I'm not a religious guy. I wasn't a church guy. But here I am crying, smoking dope, talking to God, saying, why can't I have a healthy relationship? And I got out to the Sweet Spring Saloon and told my tale of woe to my friends. And the next day, talked to my friend Mary, and she says, David, I'm not equipped to help you. And so I started calling shrinks. You know, and they won't see you right away. 2 weeks from now, a week from now, and I needed instant relief. I needed help, and it finally dawned on me 2 days later that all I needed to do was go to a meeting. And I was too humiliated to go to AA, so I called information and got a phone number for another 12-step program, and went to this small Cook Street club where you could still smoke in the rooms. And I walked in and I felt like I was at home. There were people there telling my story. It was a suicide guy there, and I'm not really a suicide guy. I'm more of a homicide guy. I'd prefer your death than mine. But I got into service right away, started doing panels, and started going to meetings every day. And that's my life. Thank you. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, Swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.